Hi everybody, how you doing? I have a few things today I want to talk to you about. And the first one is I saw a really good idea on Midlife Mama and the Life of Nina, which is now Steve and Nina's show. And a couple of other people that are doing what they're calling Shameless Shoutouts. And that's where you go, I'm going to do it once a month. And let's say the 15th of every month, you come onto my channel, and in the comments section, you can write whatever you want about your channel and kind of give us a little bit idea of what your channel's about. And it's a good contact place for other people to see who you are. Maybe they hadn't heard of you before, and to make connections. So, and it works. I know firsthand that it works. I've done it on other people's channels, and it's a good way to see people that you didn't even know was out there. So come on by on the 15th of every month and describe your channel and put comments in the comments section below where other people can read them. And then I'm going to come on probably the 16th or the 17th, and I'm going to shout out everybody who commented in the comments section on the 15th, if that makes sense to you. So come in on the 15th. I will put, let's see, how are we going to do that? I will put a short video up on the 15th just to say hello everybody and what we're doing today. And then you put your comments, and then I'll come back the next day or the 17th, probably the 17th. And I will read out your comments and do shout outs so everybody knows your name. Okay, and the second thing I wanted to talk about, and other people are doing this too, and I have participated in the last year or so, to do Christmas card exchanges. So, I mean, some of you guys are going to get Christmas cards from me whether you like it or not. But if you want to send me a Christmas card, my address is in the description box below. And for every Christmas card that I get, I will send one right back out to you. So we're going to do this up until Christmas. So if you feel like being part of the exchange and send me a Christmas card, I'll send you one right back. And like I said, some of you are getting cards whether you like it or not. So we've got that to do also. So there's shameless shout out of your channel on the 15th of every month, and the Christmas card exchange every day up until Christmas. And I will send you a card back if you send me one. Okay, so I think I've repeated myself enough on those issues. So moving on. I don't think a lot of people know in the United States. I mean, we celebrate Thanksgiving Day and we're thankful for everything that we have, and not too many people really know the history of the day. And they think, and it's taught in schools too. So, but they're taught that from 1621, when the Pilgrims had been here for a year, or the Europeans from England had been here for a year, and what they did is they had a feast and they wanted to celebrate the 1 year harvest that they had, and a large part of that is due in part to the Native Americans who were very populated on the East Coast, and they were the, oh gosh, I hope I pronounce this right, the Wampanoags, I think. Anyway, there were several tribes, and it was actually a federation, a tribal federation that they had going, and they had a pretty good system going too. And their language was Algonquin, and so they pretty much got along with the Europeans when they first came over. But the Europeans had a really hard time that first year because to me, it was extremely poor planning. I mean, if you're going to, I think a lot of them, the Europeans went, oh, New World, I'll just go over there and I'll be free, you know, and get away from religious persecution and whatever else that they were running from. But they came over totally ill-prepared, it looks like. I would have sent out a scout ship, which they may have, but I would have found out and worked with the Indians on how to grow things and how do you survive here. And you don't just show up going, okay, we're here, now what do we do? You know, which is kind of basically what some of them did. And so as a result, over half of the colony from 1620 to 1621 died of starvation and, you know, whatever comes with human cohabitants, because they just weren't prepared. I mean, I would have checked it out and had trade agreements and, you know, of course, I overthink everything. But I would not have just showed up and went, okay, ta-da, we're here, so what do we do now? And what they ended up doing to survive was a tragedy. They ended up kidnapping people, Native Americans, and they would send them off into slavery, you know, sold them as slaves. They'd end up in the Bahamas or the West Indies or wherever they went. Some of them went to England and they sold them to merchants to help work in the factories and whatever. And of course, as a result, some of the ones that were fortunate enough to come back to their home could speak English as well. So that helped out with the colony. So there was communication going on there. But anyway, the colonists, and also the colonists resorted to stealing from the Native Americans, stealing food, stealing furs, clothing, whatever they needed when they first got here. They even robbed graves, and I don't know what the benefit of that would have been, but they robbed the Indian burial grounds for, I guess they were just looking for whatever they could use. Of course, that didn't go over well with the Native Americans, as you can imagine. But so they did survive a year, and the Native Americans largely helped them survive that year. And so the Europeans finally learned how to do a crop. And so their first year's crop is what they were celebrating on what we call the first Thanksgiving. So sometime in the autumn of 1621, a group of English pilgrims who'd crossed the Atlantic Ocean and created a colony called New Plymouth celebrated their first harvest, and that's what started this. They hosted a group of Native Americans of the Wampanoags, whatever that is, Wampanoags, and there were about 90 of them, and the chief. And they came and joined them at the settlement, and they brought, the Native Americans brought a large amount of food, and they actually feasted and partied, I guess, for like 3 days. So that was that was quite a Thanksgiving celebration. But they were celebrating the harvest of their food. The Native Americans were also celebrating the harvest of their crops, which they had done for centuries before the Europeans ever showed up and started this celebration. The Native Americans had done it for forever, because it was part of their culture to be thankful for everything that they had and to continually give thanks to the earth, to the sky, and for their crops. You know, it was just part of their nature to be thankful for what they had. So they came and celebrated, you know, their success of crops with their success with the at the invitation of the Europeans. Okay, now you can, I don't know about you, but my earliest memories of going to elementary school was I would bring a brown paper bag to school to decorate and to use as part of a Native American costume. You know, we'd make our own, and you probably did too. And a less than ethnic headband, usually made out of construction paper, at least in my case, that had Native American designs on it and feathers to complete the outfit. In reality, these costumes bear no resemblance to the tribes involved, or any of the Native American tribes. This is just something that the Europeans started, and the kids are taught, you know, to kind of get this concept of Native Americans, which is really off base. And the wearing of feathers has always been significant to all of the tribes. The feathers that we wore as kids in our celebrations at school they considered to be a mockery and a misinterpretation of what a Native American or Indian is supposed to look like. What really happened at the first Thanksgiving in 1621? Pilgrims did not introduce the concept of Thanksgiving, as I was telling you earlier. The New England tribes already had an autumn harvest feast of Thanksgiving. To the original people of this continent, each day is a day of thanksgiving to the Creator. In the fall of 1621, William Bradford, the governor of the Plymouth colony, decided to have a harvest feast of Thanksgiving and invited Massasoit, the grand leader of the Wampanoag Federation, to join the Pilgrims, which he did, and he showed up with 90 warriors and lots of food. This friendly peace was very short-lived because in 1637, 5 years later, colonial authorities found justification to kill 400 to 700 of the women, children, and old men of the native tribes in a cowardly way because the warriors were all away. So they took advantage of the warriors being out of the way, and they cowardly attacked the women, children, and old men in the Native American settlements and killed between 400 and 700 people. It's estimated that 300,000 Native Americans died by violence, and even more were displaced or taken as slaves during this period. They actually had started a war with the Native Americans, and it lasted for several years. Many natives, particularly in the New England area, remember the attempted genocide as a factual part of their history and are reminded each year during the modern Thanksgiving holiday, because this is what that meant to them. I mean, that's what they remember. They have this big feast of Thanksgiving and peace, and then just a few years later, the very people that they partied with turn to wipe them out. The United American Indians of New England met each year. They do meet each year still to this day at Plymouth Rock on Coles Hill for a day of mourning. So Thanksgiving Day to them is actually a day of mourning for them. It's ironic that Thanksgiving takes place during American Indian and Alaskan Native Heritage Month. And even more ironic is that Americans today identify the day after Thanksgiving as Black Friday, but it's actually National American Indian Heritage Day. And to be honest with you, I did not know that, but Black Friday for us is actually a National American Indian Heritage Day. So it should be celebrated as such. But how many of us actually know that? I don't think we do. But I think it's something that we should all remember. On October 3rd in 1863, during the Civil War, President Lincoln proclaimed a national day of Thanksgiving. So that's when the actual holiday was created. Not 1621, but in 1863 by Abraham Lincoln, to be celebrated on Thursday, November 26th. The holiday was annually proclaimed by every president thereafter, and the date chosen as the last Thursday in November. It was basically established for the purpose of promoting national unity. It was not necessarily a widely celebrated holiday prior to this. So there you have it. This Thanksgiving holiday was, they credit the 1621 as our very first one, but it actually, I guess it was for the Europeans, but it was not celebrated on a regular basis or recognized as a holiday until 1863, when President Lincoln declared it a national holiday. And he did it not as a remembrance of a peace dinner between the Native Americans and the Europeans. His sole purpose was to create a day of unity in an atmosphere of chaos because of the war, the Civil War that was going on in our country. So I thought I would give us a little bit of history on that, and I learned some things. And a lot of our history is misrepresented. And someone said once, I think I heard it in a movie. I think it was actually on a Stargate movie, where the president, who was Beau Bridges at the time, in the movie, the Earth was about to be attacked by an alien force, and Beau Bridges, one of the guys came to him and told him that some of the president's efforts were being undermined by a certain other political person. And the man said, I hope that what I've done goes down in history as doing the right thing. And the president looked at him and he said, well, that depends on whose history, who writes the history, whose opinion. And that's kind of what's happened with the Thanksgiving holiday. It turned out to be a lot of what we were taught as children and is taught as fact is not actually the truth. And that happens a lot in history. It gets tweaked and contorted, and history is written according to somebody's opinion rather than facts. So I just wanted to kind of set things straight there a little bit. And that having been said, because this has been declared a national holiday, and actually it is one of my favorite holidays because I do love spending time with my children and my grandchildren. So I want to wish all of you Americans that are celebrating Thanksgiving Day a happy Thanksgiving Day. And I hope that we all can find something to be thankful for in our lives, because when you think about it, you really have a lot to be thankful about. Even though I don't have a lot of material things, but I am so thankful for what I do have. My friends, my family, the awesome people that I've met here on YouTube. That really has, I'm a little bit of an introvert and a hermit, so this actually has been therapeutic for me to be on YouTube and to remotely, I guess you'd say, interact with people all over the world. And I've learned things that I never knew, which is awesome. I've seen things on other people's channels that I didn't know, which is always a fantastic thing. You should never stop learning, because there's always something new to learn. And be tolerant of other people and other cultures And I just wish we could put all of our differences aside and stop killing each other and just be thankful that we have a world to live in and stop destroying our world and just be grateful that we have it and appreciate it. So I'll get off my soapbox now. And you guys have a great day, good evening, good morning, wherever you are. And stay warm, stay safe, and have a wonderful holiday tomorrow. Bye-bye.